Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Guys, I am back. I am better, or at least I try to be. You guys already know the life of a university student never stops. So I'm literally always on the go. I'm always studying. And whenever I have some free time to myself, my first thought is never to pick up this camera. But today it was. So I picked up the camera and I'm like, you know what? Let me get back into the groove of things. So today I decided that I'd make the video that I had meant to make a few weeks ago on fatherless homes. So a few weeks back when I had made my video on generational trauma, towards the end I had said that I wanted to make another video on fatherless homes and speaking about how that affects the Black community. And of course, it doesn't only affect the Black community, but like I said in my last video, I can really only speak to the things that affect people who look like me. So anyways, let's get right into it. So one of my friends, or I guess I could call him my friend now, had suggested that I talk about fatherless homes. And considering I am a product of a fatherless home, it does definitely, it touches home. And it is a heavy, heavy subject. So again, trigger warning, if you don't think you could sit through this video, by all means, click out as soon as you can. So I myself grew up in a fatherless home. It was, I don't want to say it was difficult because, I mean, my mom gave me everything that I needed. Like, there was never really a strain on anything that I required in this life. Like, my mom made sure that I was good and that I was set for life. She made sure that she put me through school. So I can't really say that it affected me financially, but it did definitely affect me mentally. And what I mean by this is growing up without a father, I find it definitely makes you reflect a lot. And like I said, I can only speak to my own experiences, but growing up without a father, it made me think that, it kind of makes you think that you're not worth it, or that like you're not enough. Because imagine like you only have one parent, like you don't speak to your other parent or whatever, or they don't check for you, or they don't provide for you. And as a child, you don't really have that capacity to think outside the box and think, oh, maybe they just can't provide, or like the first thing that you think as a child is that they don't love me, or they don't think I'm enough, or whatever the case may be. So I can definitely say that growing up, that's kind of how I thought, is that like I wasn't enough, or I wasn't worth it, or whatever the case may be. And I definitely, having friends who have also grown up without a father in their house, it's very common for especially young girls without fathers to feel like they're not enough. And what you also see now is that a lot of young girls who grew up without fathers, and not all of them, but a lot who grew up without fathers, kind of look for that love elsewhere. And this kind of sounds like so cliche, or kind of like a broken record, because you always hear this, like, girls who grew up without fathers look for love in all the wrong places. But it's so true. It's like, because having a father, especially as a young girl, is so crucial, I find that when these young girls start to grow up, they start to look for the love that was absent in their lives. And that's why you see a lot of these young girls go out, they either act out or they sleep around. And of course, I'm not judging any young girl, but I'm just saying, like, this is very common. This is a very common thing. You start to see these girls look for love elsewhere. And I find that it's kind of just like a never-ending cycle of, okay, you look for the love that you never got. You think that you're looking for it in all the right places. Then you come to find out that you're not looking for this love in the right places, and then you feel like trash after, and then you just continue. And then in order to, make yourself feel better, then you go and look for love in a different place, and that happens to be the wrong place again. So it's kind of like you're just continuing this negative cycle, this never-ending cycle of looking for love in all the wrong places. And I feel like that's what we start to see in these young girls. I mean, I was fortunate enough to have grown up around uncles who acted as my father figure, so I kind of never felt that way. I never felt like I needed to look for love in all the wrong places, because I was receiving that love at home. But some of these girls, especially Black young girls who aren't receiving that fatherly love, this is what they're doing. They're looking for that love elsewhere. And I mean, that's not always the case. There are some times where, at least what I've noticed, is when young girls, or even guys, even young men who grow up without fathers, they tend to overcompensate. And what I mean by this is that in any aspect of their life, whether it be academic, whether it be professional, whether it be social, they tend to always overcompensate. Sorry. And this just means, like, for instance, academically. And I can speak to this because that's how I was growing up. Because I didn't have that fatherly outlet, and because I felt like, again, going back to not feeling worth it or not feeling like you're good enough, I felt like I was always overcompensating. I was always such a high achiever, or an overachiever, sorry, when it came to my academics. You can ask anyone. When it came to school, Zariah was on it. When it came to getting that A plus, that 101%, it was always me. Like, I was always the one to make sure that my grades were top tier. And I know now, after doing some soul searching, I know that now that it was because of that feeling of I'm not enough, I'm not worth it, and I don't have a dad, all these things. I kind of felt like I needed to be good in other aspects of my life. Kind of like yes, I was doing it for myself, but at the same time I wasn't. It was kind of like to show this man, to show my father, like, I'm good enough. Like, do you see? Like, I'm, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm good enough. I can get A's. I can do well in school. I can literally be anything that I want because of my grades. And I felt like growing up, again, I can say this, you can ask anyone, in school, I was very motivated and very dedicated when it came to, getting those good grades, because, like I said, it all came down to it was kind of like an out of spite thing. Like, I needed to show this man that I was better than him, that I was good enough, that it didn't matter that he wasn't in my life because I don't need you. Like, you see, I'm doing good on my own. So I kind of feel like we also see that a lot in young men and young women too, who grew up without fathers. And honestly, this doesn't even have to come down to race, but like, you see it a lot in individuals who grew up without fathers, or not. And I shouldn't even say grew up without fathers, because some people grow up without fathers and grow up with fathers and still feel disconnected. And you also see this characteristic within them too. They're overachievers, or they overcompensate in social settings, or they're people pleasers. So I find that when people grow up without fathers, or any parent for that matter, but we're talking about fathers, when people grow up without fathers, they tend to overcompensate because they feel like they need to fill that void that is empty within them, which would have been the relationship that they had with one of their parents, with their father. So yeah, I found growing up that I was an overcompensator. I was 100% a people pleaser. And I think that kind of just came from, you don't want people to leave because you know that your father left, or you know that this parent left, and you don't want that to happen with other people. So you tend to, sorry, what's the word that I'm looking for? What was I just saying? You tend to people please. Sorry, it slipped me. You tend to people please because you want to make sure that you hold on to the people that are in your life. So what I've noticed, and I'm still learning. I'm still trying to learn. I'm actively learning. But you tend to never want to say no. You find yourself not being able to say no because you think that if you say no, this person might leave, or if you say no, this person might lash out, or if you say no, this person might think you're not good enough, or if you say no, this person might think that you're not worthy of them. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, and like I said, this is something that I have struggled with for a very, very long time, and even now, turning 21 in a few months, like 21 years of living, and this is what I still struggle with. And it does take a lot of time. I found that being a people pleaser is a lot harder to stop than being an overachiever. I don't know if it's just me or if anyone else has gone through this, but I find that being a people pleaser is much harder to stop than being an overachiever or an overcompensator. So so that's another thing that I've noticed. I also have two younger brothers who obviously grew up without a father, just like I did, and I can't really speak to their experiences because, again, I'm not living their life, but I think that it definitely affects them a lot more growing up without a father, just because, like, I mean, I have my mom, I have that, that girl bond. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you have that girl bond, but when it comes to young men, they don't necessarily have that boy bond, quote unquote, to have that relationship with their father, like that close relationship with your father, like, where you guys go out and you guys do things. And I don't want to say do manly things, but do boy things together. Like, if you want to go out and play basketball, or if you want to go fishing, or if you want to go hiking, like, I know that my mom's not going fishing. I know that my mom's not going hiking. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like it definitely takes a toll on young men's mental health growing up without that father figure, because, I can't speak to growing up as a boy, but I know growing up as a female is hard. And men are already, I don't want to say men are at a disadvantage in society, but when it comes to mental health and how they express their feelings and how they outwardly show emotion, they are definitely at a disadvantage in comparison to their woman counterpart, because men are always taught not to show emotion. Men are always taught to, be masculine, be a man, grow some balls, or whatever the case may be. And I believe that if there was a responsible male figure or father figure that was in these young men's life, or lives, they would come to understand that, it's okay to show emotion. It's okay to cry. It's okay to do such and such, whatever the case may be. But I find that what I'm noticing now is you see a lot of these hyper aggressive young men who think it's like out of this world to ever cry, to ever show emotion. And I definitely think that stems from not having a father figure in their life. And don't get me wrong, there are some fathers who are present in their sons' lives, and their sons turn out hyper aggressive as well, or hyper violent. But I'm just saying, like, I find that it's definitely most common in young men who have grown up without fathers. And again, it could stem from, overcompensating. It comes from having to overcompensate. So you feel like you need to be more masculine because you didn't have a father figure or a masculine figure in your life. You feel like you have to do more of this because this was absent in your life. So it's kind of like you're always in this never-ending cycle of always trying to prove the next person wrong because of what they might say given your situation. And like I said, that's how it went when I was growing up, and how it still is going. But yeah, I definitely think that growing up with a father is definitely very crucial. Of course, growing up with both parents is the most ideal. That's like the gold standard. But I think that growing up with a father is definitely very important. And even speaking to, some might say that this is like so outdated, but this is what I come to think, or how I think. I feel like, especially knowing that like the father is seen as like, the more dominant one, or he asserts dominance over his family, not necessarily negative dominance, but he's meant to be there to protect his family. He's meant to be there to lead his family to victory. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is what I envision when I envision a father. And so I definitely think that is why it's so important. Every family needs that one person to lead their family, and a woman can only do so much. People can argue with me on this, but I definitely believe that functionalism, like the functionalist sociological perspective of, the dominant one and not the submissive one, but the functional aspect of a family where the male is more dominant and he leads his family. And you know what I'm saying? Like, so I feel like, and again, like I said, some might disagree, but this is just like my way of thinking. But I feel like every family should be able to experience that, and especially young men. They should be able to have that example. And I find that this is why we're starting to see that there are no real proper leaders who are men, because not all, but like the ones who you see growing up without fathers, they don't have any examples to be good leaders. And so you see all of these friends you see all these young men following back their friends, doing God knows what, doing things that they shouldn't be doing because they don't have these proper male leaders or father figures in their lives. This topic I could talk about for days, like literally days, because again, I've gone through it. I know the mental toll that it takes on someone, the emotional toll that it takes on someone. But I guess the only thing that I would say as advice, especially like my generation, because we're coming up now, like my generation, we're coming up, we're having babies. And so I feel like the advice that I would give is just raise your kids. Like, just be there for your kids, even if you're not with your partner, even if whatever the case may be, you have a kid with someone, you don't want to be with the person anymore. That doesn't mean you need to abandon the child too. Like, you know what I'm saying? And so that's kind of where I'm coming from. Like, don't put the child in a position where they have to grow up without a parent, especially if you're able and willing and you're just roaming the earth and not taking care of your kid. Like, that is will always be weird to me, that you have a kid on this earth and you're just not taking care of them. Like, I don't know how that works. But yeah, my advice would be just raise your kid. Just do the best that you can and be there for your child, especially the fathers who are coming up now. Make sure that you're there for your children. Be present. Don't just be a father, but be an active father. Be present, because kids will look back on that when they get older and they will thank you for it. Their mental health will thank you for it. Like, their emotional intelligence will thank you for it. So, yeah, this episode is very short because I feel like if I talk too much, I might just cry. But, yeah, fatherless homes, big no-no. That's the moral of this episode. So that is my advice to the up and coming generation of fathers, even mothers. I mean, we could say the same to mothers. Everything that I said in this episode can literally be applied to absent mothers. But that's definitely a whole different ballgame. But yeah, so that is literally all I have to say. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know how you guys feel. If you guys are comfortable, let me know your experiences. I definitely love talking to people and getting to know people, and being there for people, being someone's emotional support. So again, if this video kind of touched on something and you want to get it off your chest, I'm definitely here, and I will definitely listen. But that is all for today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys might have learned something. And yeah, that is it, guys.